welcome to meet the candidates. The Frankfort Plant Board has given us a chance to come in here to the studios and have all of the candidates come in and give us an opportunity to get them to tell us a little bit more about who they are as people, as citizens, how they function in the community, and we're going to let you have a basis for actually casting your vote. I want to remind you that on April the 26th, there will be a candidate forum down at the hotel. Participate if you can. Send in questions. Just stay alert for it, and then be sure you join us for the actual live election returns on May 22nd. We'll be broadcasting from the county clerk's office, and we'll bring you those numbers just as soon as they're available to us. So for now, we're going to return to an opportunity to get to know David Fields. David is running for a position on the City Commission, and David, if you would tell our viewers who you are as a person, how you function within the community, and what possessed you to be willing to assume the responsibility of this.
You know, well, first off, I am David Fields. I live here in Frankfort, and I am a teacher and educator with the Frankfort Independent School Systems, and I've been with them almost 2 years now. I am a graduate of KSU. Graduated in 2015, or was it 16? 2016, spring of 2016 from KSU with my degree in education. Right now I'm currently at the board office teaching preschool. And a little bit about me, I'm big into the tennis community here in Frankfort. Anything youth involved, I love to do, and one of the main reasons that I'm running is to get more activities for our youth here in Frankfort, because there doesn't seem to be enough. Because I see a lot of parents who are driving back and forth from Lexington to Frankfort, and Frankfort to Shelbyville, and from Frankfort to Louisville, and they're spending a lot of money, and that's money that we could keep here in Frankfort if we would just get the programs in place that we need for the kids.
Well, of course, you alluded to the fact that that's an expensive thing for them to have to do, especially to go out of town, but it has to be paid for from somewhere. How do we use our money most effectively in getting some of those programs set up here?
Well, one, you've got to get out into the community and see exactly what the need is. And then you find ways, not by raising taxes, you find out ways to cut spending. You know, wasteful spending. And it's there. You just got to be willing to work hard enough to find it and get rid of it and redistribute those funds to where they need to go.
What do you consider to be the primary issues that you need to address from a position on the City Commission, and how would you go about doing that?
Well, here lately, actually more than lately, there has been an issue with transparency from the City Commission, and that is not flying well with many of the voters that I've talked to. So being sure that I make myself available for the citizens, the ones who voted me in, the ones who voted me to do a job that, you know, I agreed to do, making sure that they are constantly in the know of what's going on in Frankfort. Of course, we have these big projects coming up downtown with the Capitol Plaza area, you know, and I feel that what we're doing now with City Vision out of Louisville is great, but it should have been done prior to the demolition. We should have had a plan in place before we ever started this, and we've known about it for a couple of years now. So I'm a bit frustrated that we don't already have something in place for that. We also have a drug problem, as you know. So we've got to figure out a way with youth to give them something to do so that they don't fall back into that. Heroin use is on the rise. We've got to make sure we work closer with our law enforcement and our first responders so that they have everything they need so they can deal with this problem.
Do you have any thoughts on how you could pursue a resolution to that particular problem?
For the drugs?
Yeah.
You know, it's such a touchy subject as far as what to do. I mean, we have things in place now to help, but we're not proactive enough with it. And it all goes back to making sure that the kids at an early age have something to do so that they don't get bored. Boredom is the number one reason that any child gets into trouble. They don't have anything to do. So they push their limits, they try new things, and yeah, it doesn't end up well sometimes.
How do you think the budget is going to be able to function effectively over this next term? There are a lot of things that are influencing that budget right at this point. For example, the pension crisis.
The pension crisis.
Have you had a chance to look at that issue to see how you might look at finding ways to compensate for the effect it will have on the city budget?
Well, one of the things that's up in debate right now is hiring an assistant to the city manager, which could push six figures. So the commission is doing well, or I think they're doing well by holding up on that until we figure out what's going on with this pension crisis, which could raise our spending about $2.3 million, I think, if I read that correctly. So finding ways to subsidize that is critical. Now, I haven't looked into the budget, enough to know exactly where those are going to come from. But when I do get in there and have full access to everything, I'll do my best to figure it out.
Okay, one of the issues that has come up in the news recently has been board appointments by the mayor, and it is prescribed that the board appointments come by the mayor. Do you feel that there should or should not be greater oversight by the city commission on the board appointments?
Well, are you talking about specific board appointments or just board appointments in general?
Board appointments.
Well, let's just take the Frankfort Plant Board issue right now with the whole Baldwin and Rosen thing. Of course, Baldwin was removed based on a technicality, as you all know, on Tuesday night's meeting. And it had nothing to do with the findings of the report. It was a technicality that the city has known about for 5 months now. And of course, they spent the $30,000 to stage the investigation, which was unnecessary, especially if they were going to remove him on a technicality that they'd already known about. So that was wasteful. Now, with that being said, do I disagree with their decision to remove Baldwin? No, I don't disagree with it, because it was something that was overlooked. If he did not meet the requirements, then yeah. So in this instance, the commission should have had more oversight and done their due diligence and their homework and made sure that, a candidate that the mayor appointed or suggested, which was voted on, met all the necessary requirements to be a board member.
So going forward, what would be your position on board appointments as a member of city commission? What would be your stance?
Well, one, not to rush them. Do your homework on that candidate. Make suggestions to the mayor of what you feel would make a good candidate for any board. Know the board that you're proposing the candidate for. Do your homework on that board. Not one candidate is going to fit every board or, fit that position well. So knowing in depth the board that you're appointing someone to, I think is critical.
How do you feel about the need to have a county representation on the Frankfort Plant Board?
Well, I mean, as you know, the utilities of the Frankfort Plant Board don't stop at city limits in many cases. So I think it's important to have someone that represents the county on the Frankfort Plant Board.
Do you think there is a need to bring in industrial representation on these?
I don't know. Sometimes when you get too many irons in the fire, you get burned, and you don't know the best way to say it. But the additional information that maybe an industrial voice would have could be critical. But I'm not going to say whether or not that it would be best if you had someone from that position, you know.
One of the most exciting things we've had to talk about in a while is this nearly $8 million Tiger grant. What do you see of the development there on the 2nd Street corridor? And do you think that we should look for ways to take that development around into other areas of downtown?
Well, naturally, anything you do downtown is going to funnel outwards. I mean, it's just a byproduct of anything. And let's give credit where credit is due, with the city manager for her hard work on getting this this Tiger grant, you know, and really pushing for it. Now, I used to work at 2nd Street School, so I know firsthand of what the conditions and stuff are like right there next to the school. And with walking the neighborhoods, and you know, I know 2nd Street very well, so that corridor definitely could use the funds to improve. Now, here's what I hope we don't do with those funds. I hope we don't hire some outside entity to come in and do a study, and we spend that money out of that Tiger grant on that study and not implement what they suggest, which has happened in the past. You know, just be very cautious about how you spend the money and make sure that it goes where it needs to go.
Do you have any plans for additional effort to develop the downtown area beyond the 2nd Street corridor? And specifically then, I would like for you to get into your feelings about development over there on the Capitol Plaza area. What are your thoughts about what should go there and how it should go there, and who should be involved in what goes there?
Sure. Well, City Vision out of Louisville, the ones who are doing the study and all the recommendations, I think people take them as, or they pigeonhole them too much. They are not going to simply focus just on that area. What they do is they study the areas outside of where they are developing to make sure that what they put downtown or wherever they're at fits and flows into other areas of town. Now, the whole downtown development thing, like I said, we should have had a plan in place already, but I don't feel that we should look for only investors, big investors, for the downtown area, because if you have one investor that does one project with downtown, if that project fails, like the whole Capitol Plaza area failed, then it fails as a whole. Now, if you allow citizens to buy and purchase blocks of this downtown area, or private companies to purchase just blocks, then if one of them fails, that doesn't mean all of them fail. You know, you've got a greater chance of whatever you're doing down there to succeed. Now, I hope that they put residential area, I think is very important to go downtown. I love green space. I really wish the city would have gotten behind the YMCA and you know, worked with them to put in a new YMCA at the end of the new state building that they're building, which would allow for more green space right there at the corner of Wilkeson and downtown. So, you know, I know a lot of people are wanting to have a new convention center. I'm just not sure about that, you know, going downtown. Now, a convention center somewhere else, sure. I mean, it would
Well,
definitely
I
be up
wanted
for
to
grabs.
ask you about that too. There's more to Frankfurt than just the downtown, which is very important to a lot of people here. But there are other areas in Frankfurt. What are your thoughts on how we should handle development or improvements or maintenance, for that matter, in the other areas of Frankfurt?
Sure. Well, I think someone or some people tend to forget that the city of Frankfort is more than just downtown. We're 8 miles wide, which is technically not that large, but we do have, many sides to this city. And it's typically divided up, into east and west and downtown, which if you'll look at that, east has a high school, west has a high school, and downtown has a high school. It's a weird flow, but we definitely can't put all of our eggs in a basket and just focus on the downtown area, because that's not all of Frankfort. But like I said, I don't think we utilize Lakeview Park enough. Now I know part of that is in the county, but we have huge parks like Capitol View Park. We have lots of state-owned property in Frankfort, as many people know, that isn't being utilized. So that could be possible areas for a new convention center. But whatever we do, we have to have, the entire city in mind when we do it, not just downtown. And I think the folks of downtown will agree that, it's good to focus on them, but it shouldn't be all of the focus.
Do you see issues that are coming up that you feel that we've neglected to address in those other areas of town? Not necessarily for a convention center, but
Sure.
but issues for development.
Well, we're not business friendly. I mean, I know that there was a study come out that said Frankfort was, and I think it was just in today's paper, about Frankfort being the #1 place to develop a new business. But let's take downtown, for instance. We have many empty buildings downtown. And the way that it's done, it's just not conducive to business growth, or even business starting up. What was the rest of the question?
And what do you think that we could do to improve that situation? What steps could be taken to resolve the problem of being a little more friendly to development there?
Tax cuts, until let's just say a business goes in downtown, offer them tax breaks until they get up and going, till they prove that they can sustain themselves, and then work on, getting the taxes back up to where they need to be. But you can't hammer a startup business and expect them to grow, and you just, tax the heck out of them.
Where do you find the flexibility in the budget, though, to allow for tax cuts? As
well, right now, if you have an empty building, you're not getting any business taxes from them anyway, other than just the building itself. So you wouldn't have to cut anything there. It's just be lenient, be flexible, be willing to work with new businesses. If we truly want our downtown to thrive, we can't do it with empty buildings.
Do you have any ideas of what needs to be addressed with the various agencies of city government?
Yeah, you know what? It's just the fact that we're not doing our due diligence. And I think one of your questions a while ago was, what other projects throughout the county do you see necessary to work with? And I'm just going to tell you, the Humane Society really needs our help. They want to build that new facility. The facility that they have now is run down. When there's a lot of rain, the water rises up. It's a nasty mess down there. And I would really hope that the county and the city would work together to help fund a new Humane Society, because it's not just a city problem. Stray pets, it's not just a county problem. It's a whole. So I would really hope that the city would work well with them in the future. And
do you have any thoughts on how to reach out to other governmental partnerships?
Well, Houston Wells is, our judge executive, as you may know, and he's a good friend of mine. We play tennis together. Several of the current magistrates are good friends of mine. So I feel that me getting on the city commission would be lines of communication with them. I just talked with the magistrate of my area yesterday, Scotty Tracy, just going over a few things that, need to be worked on, need to have more people involved in. And I think we ended the conversation with youth sports, with the Frankfurt Youth Football League. The numbers are starting to dwindle. And there's just not enough opportunity. A girls softball, there are no farmer programs to build up so that when they do get into middle school and high school ball, that they're prepared to compete with other schools. So many of my focuses are driven by the youth. I mean, that's why I got an education degree, and that's why I want to teach, because they are our future.
Are there issues that you plan on focusing on and bringing a light to shine on that we have not generally at least covered in our conversation?
Not too much. I just brought up the Humane Society, and people are animal lovers. For the most part, people are animal lovers. Getting some funding with them. I really wish we would work closer with the YMCA. A new YMCA downtown attached to the state government building would make perfect sense. By offering state employees discounts to the YMCA, their numbers would grow. YMCA promotes many youth sports throughout the county. So many of my focuses are youth driven.
I really appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to us and give us a chance to get to know you a little better as a person and as a candidate. Look into this camera, if you would,
okay,
and tell our viewers why you are the best candidate for this position and why they should vote for you on May 22nd.
Absolutely. Well, let's just start with what I think is the obvious, with May 21st being my birthday. So it would be a great birthday gift to be on the City Commission. But no, I feel that I am the best candidate because, one, I am not a career politician. I have Frankfurt's best interest in mind. There's nothing, I don't own properties, so I get nothing out of being on a board and making sure that my end of the deal is as low as possible. So I think we should not let our personal opinions and feelings get in the way of progress. I'm very, very outgoing. I'm very open. I will never shun anyone. So the lines of communication will always be there with me. And again, I have the interest of the city in mind, not my own.
I want to thank David Fields for coming in and giving us this opportunity to talk with him today. And I want to remind you to stay alert for news about the April 26th Candidate Forum down at the hotel. And be sure you tune in to us for live coverage of the election returns on May the 22nd. We'll be down at the county clerk's office. We'll bring you those numbers as soon as they're available. And in order to cast your vote with great information, please tune in again to Meet the Candidates.